Hello and welcome to Intellings, where we explore the minds behind the most insightful nonfiction books, one conversation at a time. Today, we're delighted to be joined by Claire Gillman, a seasoned journalist, editor, writing coach, and prolific author. Claire has written more than 30 books across both fiction and nonfiction, and has edited a range of major magazines in the UK, including Kindred Spirit. She's also an experienced writing tutor and mentor, helping aspiring authors bring their ideas to life on the page. Claire is the author of the very helpful and widely praised guide, Write Fantastic Nonfiction, published by Hodder and Stoughton as part of the Teach Yourself series. This book is designed for anyone who wants to develop their nonfiction writing skills, whether you're working on a memoir, biography, travelogue, or practical how-to guide. It's full of useful tools, clear steps, and practical exercises that help writers sharpen their craft and get their work publication ready. Whether you're a beginner, a blogger, or someone who's been writing for years, Write Fantastic Nonfiction offers down-to-earth advice on everything from planning and research to structure, tone, and pitching your book idea. So, let's dive right into the conversation with Claire Gillman.
So, Claire, what inspired you to write this book?
I think because I have a lot of people. At that time, I was also doing writing workshops, and people want to write. Most people feel like, oh, I've got a novel in me. They immediately think there's something fictional.
Yeah.
But when you talk to people, so many people have a story to tell, or they have something that they are fascinated by, but they don't have the courage to write nonfiction because they think it has to be written by eminent experts in the field. And so they feel like this is something that is outside of the new writer's grasp. But in fact, it's not. In fact, what we're all interested in are people's stories and the things that come out of your own lives and your own experiences or your own interests. And that's why I encourage people to write nonfiction rather than always thinking, oh, I must have a book in me. It must be a novel.
Absolutely. How long was the process from the idea to the actual book being published? How long did the whole process take?
Well, I'm my background is journalism, and then I had been writing books for a while before this one. So for me, the process was relatively fast. If I tell you how long it took, I don't want people to think, oh, okay, I can write a book in that amount of time and get it published. Because if you're a new writer, it's probably going to take you that bit longer because you haven't necessarily got the contacts in the industry.
Absolutely.
Or the experience of writing, the writing discipline that you have if that's your career. So actually from start to finish for me, it was about 7 months. But that is incredibly quick. But it's also because I was writing a series of books for Hodder at the time. And but this was the first of them. This was the one that I really wanted to write. And so, the deal was in place and I knew what I wanted to say. And it was a case of researching the extra stuff and then pulling the book together.
So when you speak of, your discipline, do you follow any particular writing process? Do you have any particular timings? Like, is it in the morning and how you push yourself to, write?
Yeah, it's interesting, but because before things have changed slightly since the pandemic, because now so many people are used to working from home, of course. But in my career, when I first started writing, that was not the norm. And the question, when I said that I was a freelance writer, people would always say to me, oh, but how do you... I would just get distracted. I wouldn't have the discipline to sit down and write every day. And it was very simple. My motivation was if I don't deliver, I don't get paid. That was a very, very strong motivator for me. But you do build up practices, you do build up ways to make sure that you can fulfill what's expected of you or fulfill your brief and meet your deadlines. My natural time for writing, actually, I'm much better fiddling about in the morning, doing my exercise, doing my errands, and then writing after lunch and writing through to early evening. That is what I recognise is the best time for me. That's when I'm at my most creative and my most productive. But of course, life doesn't always work like that. And when you have a family and you have to work within the constraints of the working day and the school day, then you have to find ways to make sure that you do sit down at your desk and you start. And for me, that was a contract I had with myself, that I had to, once I'd got a few things out of the way, then I had to sit down and start. And actually, although you don't always feel motivated to do that, once you start to get into it, and this, I'd say this to anyone, once you start that process of writing and keep going, even if you've got that little voice in your head going, this is rubbish, this is if you keep writing, you get into the flow. And then you can always go back and revise. But it's just starting, making yourself sit down and start. That's for me. But if I have more freedom now, in that I don't have the constraints of family at home and those things. So writing now, I write in the time that is most productive and most pleasurable for me. So my mornings are spent doing my stuff, the leisure stuff. And then I start after lunch and then I work through till 7, 8 o'clock.
Is there an interesting event concerning this book, whether it's to do with the writing or publishing, that comes to your mind and that you would like to share?
Specific events, I can't actually think of anything specific about writing it. I mean, it was interesting because I had to draw on my own writing experiences, but it was also, I think, what informed the book more was the coaching and the workshops that I'd done to see. It gave me a real insight, because when you are a professional writer, you don't know what you know, if you know, in a sense. And things that I just thought were commonplace knowledge almost. Well, it's not until you start talking to people about their efforts to get published and you realise that this information isn't out there for everybody. Not everybody knows this. Just because I work alongside other journalists and professional writers, you then assume a basic level of knowledge that everyone has. But for the new writer, for the novice, this is a new world. And so it was very useful to have those experiences of the coaching and the workshops to have an insight into what people actually were struggling with and what it was that they found so daunting about writing non-fiction or getting started or getting published or the editing process. That was really interesting for me.
The title, how did you come up with the title? Did you come up with the title or somebody else come up with the title?
It was a combination, because this was a deal, a 3-book deal with Hodder. They're very involved, and most publishers are very involved in the choice of titles. Yes. In my experience, because they have whole marketing teams and divisions who are devoted to making sure a book stands out on the shelves, and their sales teams are much more powerful than they ever used to be, in terms of what goes into the formation of the book. So titles very much. Yes, of course, it's a collaboration between author and publisher. And so if you really hated a title, they would not insist on it. They couldn't insist on it, really. But you have to understand that they have a wealth of knowledge in the publishing field. So if they are strongly pushing a title, and unless you have a real aversion to it, then often an author should go with whatever the publishers are suggesting. Because there are fashions in titles as well. When this book was first published, it says what it does on the tin. Title was very much in vogue. When now the fashion is for enigmatic titles with a more explanatory strapline to pull people in. But these are vogue. What's in vogue at the time, and these are fashions, and that's how it's best in many ways to be guided by the publishers. They know what's attracting readers at the moment and what's not.
And when you were writing this book, what was the most challenging part of writing this book, and what was the most exciting part for you when you're writing this book?
I think the challenging is that there is so much that you can say. There is so much material. I mean, nonfiction is such a broad canon that, you know, trying to get everything in there that you wanted to say. That was the difficulty. You know, editing it down so that you covered the main things that people might be interested in, without going off down the rabbit holes of all the things that I could also have included, but didn't. And the great, I think it sounds so cheesy, doesn't it? But knowing that this book could help people realize their ambitions and dreams, that was the high. Because, you know, there wasn't anything particularly out there to help people with nonfiction at that time.
Absolutely. And is there anything that you would add, maybe in its new edition, to this book? Anything that comes to your mind?
I think I would give great. I mean, there is stuff in there about blogging and self-publishing, but I think I would probably expand those chapters if we were to do a new edition, because that has become such a huge area in publishing. There was, I mean, and helping people to navigate that, because, you know, the truth is that it's a very, very tough climate for getting published if you go down the traditional publishing route. The good news is that there are more alternatives now. But you have to be aware of, you know, how you reach your target audience. That is the most important thing. And, you know, the other thing I think that I find time and time again when I'm working with people and working with novice writers is that you can write the best book in the world, but if it's not marketable, if there's not, a traditional publisher is not going to publish it. So then, if you still want this book written, you have to look at alternative routes to reach your audience. So that, and in the past that wasn't possible. You know, when I first started in journalism and writing, self-publishing really wasn't an option. Whereas now there are so many options, and you know, having a platform through blogging or vlogging, again, you know, those weren't available then, and that's another way of getting your voice heard and getting your message out there. So, but the principles of good journalism, good writing behind those sites still applies. The principles of writing nonfiction apply whichever route to publication, whichever route to your audience you choose.
Okay. You must have received a lot of feedback on the book. Have you had any interesting feedback or criticism on the book so far that you would like to share?
No, I've been very, very lucky, I think, with the feedback. It's been positive, and it's incredibly rewarding to have people say that it's helped them. I mean, that's the most wonderful thing about writing a book, where people come back to you and say, this has helped me enormously. That's great. Now, whether the publishers have buffered me, they've heard something that I haven't, I don't know, but I'm sure they would get in touch if there would been somebody who had a problem with it or a criticism with it. I haven't had any feedback like that at all.
There's a lot of AI-generated stuff now. You know, what are your thoughts on how far one should go with the use of AI? And I mean, what's your take on the use of AI in producing nonfiction work today?
I think it has a role, and it can cut down the time that you invest in the research, because for all nonfiction work there's always a lot of research involved, for sure, and AI can help with that for sure. But like all things, the information that you get from AI is only as good as the source that it's drawn from. So you have to be very clear where it's coming from, and whether you're getting a good spread of representative information. So I think you have to check your sources very carefully, and in fact use it by all means, as long as you're comfortable with where the information is coming from. The sources are good, but nothing beats your own research, speaking to experts, interviewing people, calling on your own wisdom and knowledge from your experience if you're an expert in a field. Those things are irreplaceable. So yes, AI has a role, and it can cut down on the time that you have to invest. In the past, if you had to wade through reference books and have piles of books like this that you had to wade through to find information to support the stuff you wanted to write, or papers, reading academic papers, all of those things. Now you can get these great summaries, and the time is cut by half, I would say.
And what do you think are the biggest misperceptions about writing nonfiction among the new writers?
I think that people think that if it's nonfiction, then there doesn't have to be a structure. People know that in fiction you have a story arc with a beginning, a middle, and an end. And people don't apply the same principles to nonfiction, but you have to, because you are still trying to tell a story. You still have to have those structures in place of a beginning, a middle, and an end, and you still have to carry your reader with you. So people think, oh, it's non-fiction. They don't have to give any thought to how they structure their manuscripts. They can just work out the topics they want to talk, and they're basically the chapters, and then you put down everything you know. But these things have to hang together. They are not in isolation. You still have to have that story arc feel in non-fiction. You still have to begin, a middle, and an end, and you still have to carry your readers with you. And I think that's the biggest misconception.
How do you overcome a writer's block in your writing?
The thing for me is walking. I mean, if you are absolutely getting nowhere and you're really unhappy with the work, walk away. Go and do whatever it is that you want to do. Let your mind relax. For me, walking is like a physical meditation. And whilst I'm in that relaxed state and I'm in nature, I'm very lucky to be able to go out into nature. That's when the block moves, the ideas come unbidden. You're not thinking about it. You're not analysing it. You're not too in your head. And that's, for me, when the thoughts come. And in The Writer's Way, Julia Cameron, she always talks about walking, and she talks about writing pages. So she does morning pages, and I think that's a really good device. People think, oh, it's only for fiction, the writing pages, because it allows creativity to come through. Do you need those same amounts of inspiration and creativity in non-fiction? It's just a different style of writing. And so doing morning pages helps a lot of people, but you don't have to always do them first thing in the morning. You can do them any time. But doing that unconscious writing, not taking your hand off the page, it's another way of helping move through the blocks and letting the ideas come, because they're all there. It's just your head that gets in the way. It's just your conscious thought. It's those negative voices of, this is rubbish, I can't write, I can't do this, I don't know where the next idea is coming from, oh, this isn't working, and round you go. On the what if downwards spiral. But I find the best thing for me is walking. But whatever it is that takes you away and just gets your head out of that space for a while, and let the ideas percolate again, and then come back, start fresh.
Any writers that have influenced you, that you look up to, that you're inspired by?
And there are many, actually, along the way. Too numerous to mention. I love good writing, in whatever genre, and you recognise it when you read. You can read a book and be entertained, but know that this is not great writing. And you can read a book and be entertained and know that this is beautiful, well crafted writing, and that is an absolute joy, whatever book that might be for me.
And what do you think is the mark of a good writing?
I think
all the marks,
the marks. Yes, there are several. It's hard to bring it down to one. I think despite, for highbrow books, for example, for real literary books, you can admire the skill sometimes, but you're not engaged because it's just, you can't understand it. I think it has to be engaging. It has to be understandable at some level. And I think good writing has to be original. And the voice has to be original. So it has to be, you can recognize when it's all the author's authentic voice. And that's what you're looking for in writing, because everybody, if we all try and emulate a certain style, or we all try and copy the best writers, then it's not authentic, it's not your voice, and it's not going to grab the reader. And I think also I like to be surprised by a writer, when in their writing style. I think that the problem is when I say, as soon as a writing coach says, we want originality, then writers think, oh, I need to be original, and they go for a gimmick. That's not what a coach is asking for. That's not what the readership is asking for. They're asking for originality in that this is something that has come to you. It has come to you, and you follow your inspiration to produce something that is authentic to you. That's originality. And as opposed to thinking, oh, I know what's original, I'll start a new paragraph every third sentence, or I'll have no punctuation, or that's not originality, that's gimmick. And the two are very different. But originality is the holy grail of writing, and it's hard to achieve. To have the confidence, especially if you're a first-time writer, to have the confidence in your own skills and your own ideas.
How do you look at the non-fiction writing landscape in the UK today and the future?
I would say the future's bleak, but it has been difficult, and it is continuing to be difficult, the non-fiction scene, in that the publishing is a very, very tough industry at the moment. It's very, very hard to make money as a publisher, and a high percentage of your books never earn out. They never earn their advance, and the money is made by the few big titles and the few big names, which has led to the market for publishers, basically, especially in non-fiction, looking for celebrities to write books and relying on celebrity as a route to profit. And that means that high advances are going to those people who are not necessarily writers. Very many of them have ghostwriters. I've been a ghostwriter myself, so there's nothing wrong with that. But it means that fewer and fewer new writers get taken on, and I think that's a great shame. And I think fewer risks are taken now than there used to be. In the past, if an editor really believed in a book, they would argue in the publishing meeting and in the commissioning meeting, they would argue for an author. And even if other departments like marketing or sales or other editors said, well, we don't get it, we don't think it's going to work. If an editor believed in an idea, then they'll go, okay, if you believe in it, we'll do it. That doesn't happen anymore. Now, if marketing and sales, if sales say, well, we don't know where we couldn't sell that in the bookshops, or if marketing say, well, how are we going to pitch that? I don't know how we're going to pitch that. It doesn't get commissioned. However strongly a publisher believes in it, an editor believes in it. So it is a tough climate now. And I understand how that's come about, because publishers basically are a business, they have to make money. But I think it's at a cost. And I hope that we see a reversal in that. But I don't think it's imminent.
How do you think it can change or improve the situation? What are your thoughts, basically, on that, if you have any?
I wish I could solve it.
Well,
I'm
what
not.
would be your suggestions?
I don't. I think we have to get back to, yes, I think that the cult of celebrity is going to continue for a long time, and yes, publishers should continue to commission them because they do make money for them, and we need these publishers to survive. But alongside that, I'd like to see a bit more courage in taking on some other titles and using the monies provided by the celebrity authors to help nurture and bring along some new authors as well. Otherwise, we're going to lose the talent that's out there.
What are your thoughts about self-publishing? Do you think that's one thing which is going to probably save the day?
I don't think it's going to save the day, but I do think it's an important vehicle for people to get books published. I think the biggest misapprehension with self-publishing is that, with traditional publishing, at the end of the day, you're probably going to get about 10% of the profit. And with self-publishing, you get 90%. But if you can't get your books to market, if nobody knows about your books, then you're getting 90% of nothing. So, and it's not just having a market, it's if you can't have a renewing audience. So people say, I've got a database of clients. So you're writing something about a specialist subject. I've got a database of clients. Yeah. I can say it to them. Yes, then you know roughly how many books you're going to sell, or hopefully how many you're going to sell on a percentage basis. But then once you've exhausted that database, how are you then going to continue to sell? So you not only need a way to an audience, but you need a renewing audience. So if you haven't got any marketing skills and you haven't got any way to reach the general public, self-publishing, you're going to end up with a lot of books in your garage that you haven't sold. You have to know how you're going to. And I think what's encouraging is that the younger generations are so much more switched on to how you reach your audience and to marketing themselves and their products. And so for them, I think the future is much brighter. I think it's the older generation who think, I've got a lot of life behind me, I've got a lot of experience, I want to share what I know, I'm going to write a book and I'm going to self-publish. And then they produce a book and it could be a brilliant book or it might not be. But then, how do you reach your target audience? How do people know about your book amongst the myriad of books that are published every week? So self-publishing, I think there's a place for it, but there are caveats. You have to be able to know how you're going to potentially get sales. I think where one of the aspects of self-publishing that can be really useful is in the personal story market. So many people, as they get older, decide that they want to write a memoir. And very often, when they first come to me as a coach, their view is that they want to publish this book, and especially if it's a triumph over adversity book. The theme very often there is, well, if I could do it, so could others, and I want other people to know that. So they want to write their book for that purpose, and that's very laudable. But unless it's an exceptional story or exceptionally original, you're unlikely to get a publisher. They're only taking on so many of these human stories, these personal stories. And often, actually, when you speak to people, very often, if they're writing their memoirs in later years, it's not because they want the world to hear their story. It's because they want their loved ones, their family and their friends and their children to understand what has shaped them, what has happened to them in their lives. And it's almost like a legacy that they want them to have a great insight into who they were as younger people, or through into some things that have happened to them in their lives. So in those instances, in those circumstances, the self-publishing is the right way, but not self-publishing in the sense that you go along and you get the high print run and then you get an ISBN number and it's out there and you don't make any sales. Then you can do a niche part of self-publishing, which is print on demand. So there's no ISBN number. You print however many books, 20 books, 25 books, however many you want. You go through the same self-publishing process to produce the book. And then you have your 25 copies. And on paper, it looks slightly more expensive because you've got a lower print run than you have with a large ISBN print run. But of course, there's no waste. You have those books, you have them to give to the people that you would like to hear your story. And that's a very, very good option, I think, for many people.
When it comes to promoting your books, what are the things that a nonfiction writer who gets published should bear in his or her mind?
Sure. And as I say, back in the day, you used to have a publicity person from the publishing house who was with you for months almost. Now you have a week of the publicist, and then they're on to the next book. So you have to be pretty sure that you are willing and able to self-promote as well. And it can be so many different things, especially in the UK. So you can contact local radio stations, local newspapers, do interviews with them, because they always want to promote local authors, local, heroes, as it were. So certainly do that yourself, get onto them. And if you can get onto nationals, great, but the publicity department are probably going to be the people who will help you with that. Again, if your book has something, I don't know, that has a hook to hang it on. So, I don't know, you're writing about, the Spitfires or something. So then, if there's an anniversary coming up of the Battle of Britain, you get in, there's a hook. You get in touch with magazines. You say this comes out and it ties in. So you're looking for hooks to hang the publicity on, and then So self-promotion like that. Getting in touch with magazines who work in the field that your non-fiction is in, hobbyist magazines, and saying you'll write an article, and if they'll promote your book at the end of it, with an idea that's taken from the book, not about your book, but something that's pertinent in the book, and then you promote your book at the end. There's so many different ways that you can set up a blog, set up a website. All of these things can help raise the awareness of your book.
And lastly, Claire, what new projects are you working on? What should we expect from you in future, in the days to come?
I'm between projects, writing projects at the moment. So I haven't got anything coming out just at the minute, because I'm actually working with a group of people who I'm trying to get published, and I'm helping them with their projects at the moment, their writing projects. So we will see. This is the thing about writers, they never retire. You think that you say that's it, no more books, and then an idea comes. My last book, which is about liminal space, I said before that, no more books. I will continue to do magazine stuff or newspapers or helping the coaching, but I'm not writing any more books. And then, of course, this came along. What would you write about if you talking to a publisher that I knew? And you end up writing another book. So never say never.
Never say never.
Never say never.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Claire.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's so lovely to see you and have you here. Forward to having more conversations with you about your other books.
I do too. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Bye for now.
And that brings us to the end of this insightful conversation with Claire Gillman. We hope you found her advice as inspiring and practical as we did. Whether you're just starting out or looking to take your nonfiction writing to the next level, her book, Write Fantastic Nonfiction, is a brilliant resource to have on your shelf. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe to Intellings for more interviews with authors, researchers, and thinkers shaping the nonfiction world. And don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Thanks again for listening, and until next time, keep writing, keep reading, and keep exploring.